Hey everyone, welcome back to some new malicious compliance stories. I hope you had a great day. If you would like to help me grow this channel, please press the like button. It really helps in the algorithm. And if you haven't already, why don't you make this the video that you subscribe to the channel? And with that out of the way, let's start with the first story. The first story is called It Is What It Is. Many years ago, in the company I worked for, the compensation for most employees was the base salary plus bonus. The bonus was approximately a fourth of the annual salary. The year I was hired, the bonus structure was a simple, straightforward calculation and paid annually in January of each year based on production of the prior year. 2 years later, they decide to restructure the bonus program. Instead, each team is given a quota. No one receives a bonus until the quota is reached. But once the quota is reached, you would receive bonuses monthly based on a slightly different yet still easy to calculate formula. The teams were broken down into a team of 2 salespeople, another team of 2 salespeople and a team of 4 salespeople. The team of 4 had a quota that was slightly more than double the other 2 teams, but the top sales guy, one of the owners, was in that team. In August, the 4-person team makes the quota, so in September the staff gets the bonus on work done for the team. Come October, paychecks come out, and no bonus for September sales. I asked the bookkeeper about it, and she says, well, quota hasn't been reached. I said, we made the annual quota in August and we got the bonus in September. This is when we find out that the top salesperson / owner had removed himself from the 4-person team and made a 1-person team. But he kept the quota the same for both the now 3-person team without him and for his 1-person team. That made those quotas almost impossible to reach and meant no one would receive a bonus for any work done for either team. I complained that this was not right and wasn't what we'd agreed to in our compensation package. By doing this, they were effectively cutting the compensation of every staff member by thousands of dollars a year. The owner tells me, it is what it is. If you don't like it, you are free to leave. So 2 months later, I left, and I had also told every other staff member what they had done and why no bonuses had been paid out in October. By early March, all but 2 other staff members had also quit. This left them with an all-new and untrained staff. Eventually, this impacted client services and deliverability, and within a year 3 salespeople had left. And within another year, the company had gone out of business. The next story is called 60 grand out of the window. I work as an office engineer at a mid-sized prefabricated concrete structures plant. About 3 months ago, our plant manager left spontaneously for a much higher paying gig down south. Due to this, his responsibilities were distributed to whoever had capacity. I was put in charge of purchasing with the caveat that any purchase order over 5k had to be reviewed by that project's project manager. This was because due to my inexperience and in part my overconfidence, I made a mistake. I made an order which only cost us a couple of grand but delayed a project. So the new rule was implemented for me that I needed every purchase order over 5k to be reviewed. Due to lower labor costs and the size of our own steel shop, we have most of our large steel structures fabricated just across the border in Canada. Our general manager is acting project manager on a project. This includes a large steel frame surrounded by concrete modules. I was told to get this frame quoted by our Canadian metal fabricator. I get the quote back and throw together the order. When I look back through the project specifications before sending the purchase order for review, I see our project has a Buy American clause, not Buy America, as we had assumed. Almost all of our projects are Buy America and we are very familiar with it. This little N makes all the difference. Under Buy America, a Canadian fabricator can use American steel and meet every requirement. However, under Buy American, all steel must be domestic and all fabrication must be done in the States. My general manager was out of town on what was essentially a vacation to a project site we have in Hawaii and was having none of my calls and emails marked as urgent. I informed him in a couple of emails and multiple voicemails that we had to go to a different fabricator or the product would be rejected. I got an angry email back, telling me to place the order immediately. I tried one more call in desperation, straight to voicemail, and then sent him over the completed purchase order with the Buy American spec attached. I told him this is well over my 5k limit and I needed to get him to approve it before I send it out. He approved it in less than 10 minutes, I sent it and waited for the fallout. Well, it finally happened. Our product was delivered yesterday, and today the project owner sent over an inspector to make sure everything was done per project drawings. He noticed the manufacturer right away and told us he would have to reject the product purely because it does not meet Buy American. In less than 20 minutes, I was getting an earful from my GM asking me why this wasn't caught before we wasted over 60 grand on something that would clearly be rejected. I let him finish his rant, insulting my intelligence, threatening to fire me, breaking protocol, the works. I asked him to pull up my emails from the order date and showed him that he was informed of the issue and my concerns were ignored. He didn't take this well and told me to get the hell out of his office. And now there's nothing left but to wait. Our project will be delayed at least a month and the owner of our company is getting involved. I have the emails saved on a jump drive at home and the phone logs. While not recording the conversations, they show that I left multiple voicemails on the same date. And they cannot be touched by the general manager. And here's the update. The outcome was that I actually ended up leaving this company mainly due to poor management. I never really got in trouble for this, but my GM was always a jerk to me afterward. The third story is called I Made Do. A few years back, I wanted a change of scenery in terms of my job. I was working at a housing agency, but somehow just lost interest by the end. I had always had a passion for wine on a personal level, and I felt like taking the jump into the business side of it. I got a scheduled interview at a gourmet shop with a great wine selection where I had shopped previously. I was greeted by the newly hired manager, who, for a lack of better words, looked like a military sergeant. He had a buzz cut and a dead serious look in his eyes. I referred to him as boss. He seemed truly friendly and was witty enough throughout the interview. He did, however, mention that I would be taking over for an employee he had personally fired who had worked there 7 years. I found that odd, but ended taking the job because of my passion. On my first shift, I was assigned to the guy whose job I had taken. It was odd as hell. He was, however, rather cool about it. I will refer to him as Ben. Ben showed me the ropes and taught me a few good things. To this day, I swing by his new employment and buy some wine on his recommendation. On his last day, he told me to be wary of boss and look out for myself. It caught me a bit off guard, as I hadn't really caught any red flags, besides Ben's firing, that is. As time went on, it became quite clear what he meant. Ben wasn't the only one he had fired. In fact, during the 6 months the boss had been there, he had fired 15 people, varying from cashiers to kitchen staff. I found out more than 5 people in addition to that had quit in that time. The boss's routine became clear too. He would lure you in, be charming and charismatic, even give you a small gift after your first few weeks. As soon as you have settled in, his demeanor changes. It went from heaven to hell during my first year. He would micromanage to the point that he would skip his own meetings just to circle the store and complain about people's work. He was convinced that everyone would omit from doing their job if he didn't keep watch. Just over my first year in, I'm pretty drained. I love the job itself and the co-workers are nice, but the boss is a living walking psychopath. As time went on, his wording and his demeanor became more and more sinister. He would at times stalk me whenever I went from the store into our storage to ask, "What are you doing here?" My answer always remained the same. Doing my job, what else? Fast forward a few months and I am at rock bottom. I hate getting up in the morning, I hate going to work, and I hate my boss. One day I encountered the same issue I have done every day for months. I go into storage to place an order on the computer. He marches in and asks me what I am doing. I reply with a question. What do you think I am doing? He goes livid. He yells and shouts as I tell him he shouldn't talk to me that way, as calmly as I could, but honestly I was shook by him. His response? "If you don't like it, find another job, you idiot." And so that's exactly what I set out to do. In the meantime, I did call HR and announced that I was struck with stress due to workplace environment issues. I spent a week at home as I tried to regain my thoughts, my energy and in general some peace and quiet. I also lined up 2 job interviews by the end of the week. HR calls and they say they want to resolve everything. They more or less admit, off the record, that the boss is a special person to be around. They admit that I am not the first nor even the fifth case. They give me the possibility of staying on for another month, which suits me perfectly if I land a job elsewhere. And here comes the kicker. The company had a bakery shop elsewhere that they needed to close, but still had a rental contract on. They wanted someone to run a pop-up wine shop there. I would get away from the boss, and I was happy with that. The boss, however, had shipped out a ton of bad wine without even asking my opinion on the stock or taking the size of the store into consideration. It was a clutter, to say the least. On the second week there, I got a call about one of the interviews I had been to. I landed the job. I was pretty stoked and looking forward to getting away from here. In the final week, I had still plenty of bad wine stacked up in the store. I'm thinking about just how the heck all of this is gonna get moved out of here. The boss calls me up Tuesday, says that he sent some quarter pallets and stretch wrap and everything has to be ready to go by Friday. He doesn't send this before late Wednesday, and to make matters worse, he sends me one roll of stretch wrap and by my count 2 few pallets. I call him back, tell him I need 2 more rolls of wrap and some pallets, in which he proceeds to tell me to make do. I did call someone else at the store to try and make them send another stretch wrap. I never did get one, so I guess boss intercepted that plea as well. So now it is time for some malicious compliance. I spent all Thursday accommodating customers while zipping around picking pallet after pallet. One was stacked quite alarmingly higher than the other, while one is filled with an even less layer than the one before. 43 quarter pallets to be exact. One even worse stacked and filmed than the next. I made do. A truck pulls up at Friday and I keep hauling pallet after pallet out. The 2 guys assigned do not look pleased whatsoever. They can see just how hazardous this load is gonna be to drive with. They still manage to load it up without much hassle, but not without taking their time balancing every other pallet. I'm pretty much in disbelief that they even accepted to haul it at all. My shift and thus my job ends almost the minute that they are done loading. I lock the place up, hand the keys to one of the guys and head off into the sunset as I pleasantly await a call from my former boss. An hour creeps by and my phone rings. The boss is screaming and shouting at the other end. Dozens upon dozens of bottles shattered and wine was everywhere in the truck and on the loading bay, and what the heck was I even doing? I told him that I made do as I ended the call. The last story is called Her Dog Was Awesome. Most days, weather permitting, my floof and I will head to the local dog park at about the same time. Yes, I'm aware dog parks have a lot of risks associated. I'm very careful. My floof less so, but I have farms, so he has to listen. As we are usually there around the same time every day, I recognize most of the dogs and their parents. Fairly frequently, new friends show up and everyone gets to know each other. It's a good time. A lot of social norms, for New England anyway, are relaxed. So it's not really weird to wind up talking to strangers. And as a rule, if someone you don't know is trying to get your attention, odds are you should probably see what they have to say before dropping the hammer. One morning in particular, a dog is engaging in a thankfully more rare form of icky things dogs do sometimes. He found a nice fresh dump on the ground and promptly rolled around in it. I pick up my dog's plop plops when he drops them. Other people are less conscientious. No, I don't recognize the floof that's rigorously applying dog cologne, but that's not a problem. One unknown dog, one unknown Karen. Having rescued a dog previously who was a notorious poop roller, I decided Karen might like a heads up. She's talking on her cell phone, not watching her dog, and nobody wants to be in an enclosed space with this dog when he is done. I mosey over and wave and say, "Excuse me?" Karen pivots to looks at me, covers the bottom of her smartphone and hisses, "I'm on the phone." Well then, my mistake. I mosey back over to the group of people I know, and now we are all watching Karen's dogs find 5 further fresh piles to frolic in. Eventually, Karen gets off a super important phone call and summons her dog to leave. And right after she attaches the leash, she screams, "Why didn't anyone tell me that this happened?" I raise my hand and wave and say something to the effect of, "Hey, ma'am, yeah, hi, you were on the phone." She turns beet red and makes hasty tracks to her car. She hasn't been back since, don't know why, her dog was awesome. Thanks for watching the video, I hope you enjoyed it. Have a great day, bye bye.